A developing tropical low in the Coral Sea. Potential impacts for Queensland East Coast this weekend. That S, what we need to discuss. The Bureau of Meteorology is tracking a low pressure system forming in the Coral Sea, and if you worry anywhere from Bundaberg north to the Cape, this one deserves your attention. Not panic, just attention. Right now across Queensland, conditions are already uncomfortable. Mount Carbine this morning hit 30 degrees by 8:30 a.m. with 85% humidity. That S too hot to be out mowing by 9:30. Brisbane S been dealing with similar sticky conditions all week. Darwin sitting at its typical 35 degrees as the build-up continues. That warm, humid air mass sitting over the eastern states is about to interact with this developing system, and that S where things get interesting. The Coral Sea low is forecast to develop over the next 48 hours. Current model guidance from Access, the European model, and GFS are in reasonable agreement on the broad setup. A surface trough extending from the monsoon trough will deepen as an upper-level disturbance moves across from the west. By Friday, we're re-looking at a defined low-pressure centre somewhere between 500 and 700 kilometres east of the Queensland coast. The critical question is track, and this is where we need to be honest about the uncertainty. The Access model is showing a southward track, bringing the low closer to the coast between Bundaberg and the Sunshine Coast over the weekend. The European model is slightly more offshore, but still close enough for significant impacts. GFS has been a bit more erratic in its solutions, showing some runs tracking further east, others bringing it right onto the coast. What does that mean practically? It means we're re-looking at a range of outcomes, and preparation should be based on the worst reasonable scenario, not the best case. If this low tracks close to the coast or makes landfall, we're re-talking about widespread heavy rainfall, strong to gale force winds, dangerous surf, and coastal erosion. If it stays offshore, impacts will be less severe but still significant for coastal areas. Let me break down the current thinking region by region, and I'll be clear about confidence levels as we go. Far North Queensland, from Cooktown to Cairns, you are on the northern fringe of this system. Current thinking has the main impacts further south, but you will still see increased showers and thunderstorms Friday through Sunday. Rainfall totals likely in the 50 to 100 millimetre range. Winds picking up to 40 to 60 kilometres per hour with stronger gusts near storms. The Coral Sea will be rough, so if you've got boats out or charters planned, keep a close eye on marine warnings. Townsville down through to Mackay, similar story. You are north of the main action but not immune. Expect scattered to widespread showers and storms, particularly Saturday and Sunday. Rainfall could reach 100 to 150 millimetres in some areas, higher under thunderstorms. Winds strengthening from the southeast, 50 to 70 kilometres per hour. Seas building to 3 to 4 metres offshore. Central Queensland coast from Mackay down to Bundaberg. This is where uncertainty increases. You are in the potential impact zone if this low tracks westward. Best case, you see what areas to your north are getting. Worst case, you are looking at very heavy rainfall, 200 to 300 millimetres or more over the weekend. Damaging wind gusts potentially reaching 100 kilometres per hour near the low centre. Dangerous surf, 6 to 8 metre waves offshore, significant coastal erosion risk. For those with fishing charters booked off Bundaberg for Saturday the 31st, I'd be making alternative plans. The marine forecast is showing gale force winds developing Friday night, persisting through the weekend. Seas building to 5 to 7 metres. That S not whether you want to be out in, charter boat or otherwise. Southeast Queensland from the Sunshine Coast down through Brisbane to the Gold Coast, you're on the southern edge of likely impacts, but that doesn't mean you are clear. Heavy rainfall is still on the cards, 150 to 250 millimetres possible over the weekend. Winds want to be as severe as further north, but still expect 50 to 80 kilometres per hour gusts. The bigger concern for Brisbane and surrounds is rainfall intensity. With catchments already seeing decent rain this month, some areas have had 243 millimetres in January alone. The flood risk increases if we see sustained heavy falls. Wide Bay region, you rewrite in the crosshairs regardless of which track this low takes. Prepare for significant impacts. Heavy to very heavy rainfall, strong to damaging winds, flooding rain for some catchments. This is one to take seriously. Now let's talk about the timing in more detail because that matters for preparation. Thursday, the low is still forming. You'll see cloud increasing across the Queensland coast, winds picking up from the east to southeast, scattered showers developing. Not the main event yet, but the leading edge. Friday, the low deepens and begins its southward movement. Rainfall becomes more widespread and heavier across central and North Queensland. Winds strengthen significantly, particularly along the coast. Marine conditions deteriorate rapidly. Gales developing offshore. This is when impacts really begin. Saturday, this is likely the peak day for most areas. The low will be at its closest point to the coast, wherever that ends up being. Heaviest rainfall, strongest winds, most dangerous seas, flash flooding possible, particularly in areas that see repeated heavy showers and thunderstorms. Coastal erosion likely in exposed locations. Sunday, the low is expected to weaken as it moves south and possibly comes under the influence of an upper-level trough. Conditions should begin easing from the north, but southern areas could still see significant rain and wind through Sunday and into Monday. By Monday, the system should be weakening further or moving away to the southeast. Conditions gradually improving across most of Queensland, though showers and storms will likely persist in the southeast. That's the timeline we're reworking with. Could shift by 12 to 24 hours either direction depending on how quickly this system develops and moves. Let's talk about what you should be doing to prepare region by region. If you're in central Queensland, particularly coastal areas from Mackay to Bundaberg, start preparation now, not tomorrow now. Secure loose items around your property. Anything that can become a projectile in strong winds needs to be tied down or brought inside. Trampolines, outdoor furniture, shade cloth, tools, rubbish bins. Clean your gutters and downpipes. Make sure they re-clear so water can drain properly. Check your emergency kit, torch, batteries, battery-powered radio, first aid supplies, enough food and water for 3 days. Fill your vehicle with fuel. If power goes out, petrol stations can pump. For those in rural areas with livestock, make sure animals have access to high ground and shelter. Check fences and gates. Have a plan if you need to move stock quickly. Coastal residents, if you're in a low-lying area prone to storm surge or coastal inundation, know your evacuation route. Have important documents in waterproof containers where you can grab them quickly. Southeast Queensland, you're likely looking at less severe impacts, but don't be complacent. Same preparation applies. Secure loose items, clean gutters, check your emergency supplies. If you're in a flood-prone area, particularly around Brisbane's creeks and rivers, keep an eye on the BOM flood warnings. With catchments already wet, it won't take as much rain to cause problems. For everyone across Queensland, stay informed. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website regularly. They'll have the latest warnings and forecasts. Download the BOM weather app if you haven't already. Have multiple ways to receive warnings. Don't rely just on your mobile phone. If the SES issues an evacuation order, follow it. Don't wait. Don't think you'll be right. Leave early when it's safe, not late when it's dangerous. And the classic reminder that needs to be said every single time there is heavy rain. If it is flooded, forget it. Never drive through floodwater. It is deeper than it looks, faster than it looks, and more dangerous than you think. Every year people die doing exactly this. Don't be one of them. Now, I want to address the uncertainty in this forecast because that's important to understand. Tropical lows are notoriously difficult to predict with precision more than 48 to 72 hours out. Small changes in steering currents, sea surface temperatures, or upper-level winds can significantly alter the track and intensity. We still 3 to 4 days from peak impacts. The forecast will continue to be refined as we get better data. What I am giving you is the best assessment based on current information. By Thursday, we'll have much better clarity on exactly where this system is heading and how strong it will be. That's when local warnings will become more specific. Don't wait for perfect information to prepare. The time to get ready is now while you can do it calmly and safely. Let me put this in historical context because many of you have been through these events before. This isn't Cyclone Yasi. That was February 2011, Category 5, wind gusts over 285 kilometres per hour near the centre. Absolute devastation across parts of North Queensland. This current system 1T reached those extremes. It is not Cyclone Larry either. March 2006, Category 5 at landfall near Innisfail. Communities flattened. What we're looking at is more comparable to an East Coast low. Significant rainfall, strong winds, coastal impacts, but not the catastrophic winds of a major cyclone. Think more along the lines of systems that have brought flooding rain to southeast Queensland in the past. The 2011 floods that affected Brisbane and Toowoomba started with similar setups. Heavy rainfall over an extended period, catchments already saturated, rivers rising rapidly, or the 2022 floods across eastern Australia. New South Wales and Queensland copped it. Widespread flooding, multiple river systems at major flood level, communities isolated. I'm not saying this will be that severe. I am saying the ingredients are there for significant impacts and you should prepare accordingly. The difference between a manageable event and a disaster often comes down to preparation and response. You can T-control the weather, but you can control how ready you are for it. For those in Darwin and the top end, you are outside the impact zone for this system. You will continue with typical build-up weather. Hot, humid, afternoon storms. Keep an eye out for your own tropical developments as we move through cyclone season, but this Coral Sea low isn't your concern. Southern states, you're well clear of this one. In fact, if you are in Victoria or Tasmania, you are dealing with completely different weather. Cool to mild conditions, some areas seeing overnight minimums near zero. That is the temperature contrast across the country right now. 38 degrees and humid in Brisbane, -2 with frost in Hobart. South Australia and Western Australia, you've got your own weather patterns to watch. That Coral Sea system won't affect you directly, though it might influence the broader pattern across Eastern Australia later next week. Back to Queensland. I want to talk about rainfall intensity specifically because this is often where the danger lies. Models are suggesting rainfall rates could reach 20 to 40 millimetres per hour during the heaviest bursts. That flash flooding territory. Roads become rivers in minutes. If you see water rising rapidly, get to high ground immediately. Catchment flooding is the other concern. Even if the rain is falling directly on you, water from upstream can cause rivers to rise hours or even days later. Don't assume you are safe just because it is stopped raining in your area. The BOM will issue flood watches and warnings as this develops. A flood watch means flooding is possible. Start paying attention. A flood warning means flooding is occurring or imminent. Take action. They classify flooding as minor, moderate, or major based on river height and impact. Minor flooding might mean some low-lying areas go underwater, roads cut. Moderate means more extensive inundation, some evacuations possible. Major means widespread flooding, significant evacuations, major impacts to communities. Wind is the other hazard to watch. 50 to 100 kilometre per hour gusts can bring down trees and power lines. If you lose power, it might be out for days, not hours. Power companies will prioritise restoration, but if there's widespread damage, it takes time. Have a plan for how you will manage without electricity. Food that doesn't need refrigeration or cooking, ways to keep warm or cool. Entertainment that doesn't require screens. And look after each other. Check on elderly neighbours, people living alone, those with medical conditions who might need extra help. That is what communities do. We look after our mates. Marine impacts deserve special mention. The Coral Sea will be extremely dangerous this weekend. Gale force winds, very rough to phenomenal seas, poor visibility in heavy rain. Coastal waters will be hazardous right down the Queensland coast. If you've got a boat, make sure it's properly secured. Check your mooring lines, add extra if needed. Consider moving vessels to safer locations if you are in exposed anchorages. Surf life-saving patrols will likely close beaches. Don't argue with them. Don't think you will be right to go for a quick swim. Dangerous surf conditions mean exactly that. Strong rip currents, large dumping waves, reduced visibility. People drown in these conditions every year. Rock fishermen, this is particularly important for you. Large swells can sweep people off rocks without warning. It's not worth the risk. Wait for conditions to settle. As we look beyond this weekend, the pattern across Eastern Australia remains active. Even after this low moves through, we're likely to see continued unsettled weather, more systems coming through, further rainfall, continued marine hazards. That is actually not terrible news for some areas. Parts of Queensland and New South Wales have been waiting for decent rain. Dams are down in some regions, paddocks are dry. Provided the rain isn't too heavy too fast, it could be beneficial, but it does mean that if this weekend system causes flooding, recovery time before the next rain event could be limited. That is something to keep in mind for flood mitigation and cleanup planning. Model confidence for the extended outlook beyond 5 days is low. We're re-watching for potential tropical development in the coming weeks as we move deeper into cyclone season. Sea surface temperatures across the Coral Sea and Gulf of Carpentaria are warm enough to support development. The monsoon trough is active. The ingredients are there. This current system might be just the first of several we need to watch this season. Let me give you some context on where we are in the seasonal cycle. Late January into February is typically when cyclone activity increases across northern Australia. We usually see several systems develop. Some stay offshore, some make landfall, some track parallel to the coast, causing widespread impacts without technically crossing the shoreline. This year, outlook suggested near average cyclone numbers for the Australian region. We're retracking close to that prediction so far. But averages don't mean much when you read directly in the path of a system. Right now, the focus needs to be on this weekend event. Get prepared, stay informed, make sensible decisions. I'll be updating as this system develops. Check back Thursday for a more refined forecast once we have better data on the low S position and movement. By Thursday evening, we should know with much more confidence exactly where this is heading. Final practical points before we wrap up. Charge all your devices now. Phones, tablets, laptops, power banks. If you have battery-powered lights or radios, make sure they work and you have spare batteries. Fuel your vehicles. Fill up your generator if you have one. Store it safely away from the house with proper ventilation. Bring pets inside or ensure they have safe shelter. Animals get stressed in severe weather. Make sure they re-secure and comfortable. If you take regular medications, make sure you have enough for at least a week. Same for baby formula, special dietary needs, anything critical. Cash is useful if EFTPOS goes down. Power outages can affect payment systems. Know where your insurance documents are. Take photos of your property now as a before record if you need to make claims later. And remember, things are replaceable. Your life and your family as safety auntie. If you are told to evacuate, do it. Don't stay to protect property. It's not worth it. This coral sea low is a significant weather system. It requires preparation and attention. But it's not cause for panic. You've dealt with Queensland weather before. You know what needs to be done. Get ready today. Stay informed over the next few days. Make smart decisions based on official warnings. The Bureau of Meteorology, Queensland Fire and Emergency Services, SES, they're all monitoring this closely. Listen to their advice, follow their warnings, and look after each other. That is what gets communities through these events, not just individual preparedness, but looking out for your neighbours, your mates, the vulnerable people in your area. Stay safe, Queensland. I'll have more